Hey guys, and welcome to my personal ranking of all the Star Wars movies. But before ranking, there has to be knowledge about what I'm ranking. So I'll just list the movies in order. First up is The Phantom Menace, then Attack of the Clones, then the Clone Wars movie, then Revenge of the Sith, Solo, Rogue One, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and finally The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, there are a few categories that I'm basing this off. There's entertainment and lore, which is basically how well it works in the Star Wars canon, and like 16 other categories that I know exactly what they are in my brain, but are gonna sound stupid coming out of my mouth. So I'll just explain my reasoning as to why I picked XYZ for XYZ spot. Okay, enough delay. Let's begin with number 12. My number 12 spot goes to The Last Jedi. Okay, so basically, I thought this movie was terrible. In terms of entertainment, it was probably 2 out of 10, because the only scene of worth was the hyperspace ship ram thing. The whole movie just felt really slow, and it was set in like 2 days. You can't make enough content in 2 days for anything interesting. It just feels like it's slow and useless. For lore, absolutely nothing happens anyway. But maybe the part where Luke decides not to help the Resistance, because I don't think Luke would have changed from helping everybody in the Rebel Alliance to becoming a hermit that just failed with one student and decided to quit everything. It sounds quite extreme. Okay, number 11 time. 11th pick is Rise of Skywalker. In terms of entertainment, it was actually not that bad, and you'd have to agree with me. Besides a few lines, it was entertaining to watch.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
But the lore completely ruined it. Absolutely destroyed Star Wars. There's just no conceivable way of lots of things happening in this film. Like, how did they get 1,000 plus ships appeared in the farthest system in like 16 hours? You can't get across the galaxy in 16 hours. I know for a fact there are a few Mon Calamari ships, and Mon Calamari is very far across from Coruscant. And the fact that they all showed up at the same time is just preposterous. And force healing. Don't even get me started on force healing. The spy thing with Hux 2. He was definitely not going to be a spy before they made Episode 9. It was not going to be a spy thing. He killed way too many Resistance and New Republic to even conceive of being a spy. He did 1,000 things worse than good just by doing his job. Okay, I'm done now. Time for numeral 10. You might have guessed, Force Awakens, which is just basically a copy and paste of A New Hope with different characters. You can't tell me otherwise. It isn't entertaining, because it's just a copy and paste of Episode 4. And screw the lore that Star Wars fans have carefully crafted. Let's just put some random guy who's never held any melee weapon in his life against someone who's been training with it for more than 5 years. I actually don't know if it's been more than 5 years or less. Someone let me know in the comments. But from a non-Star Wars perspective, if I had held absolutely no melee weapon and just went against someone who had trained for 5 years, like pretend you were my enemy, murder was legal, you were evil, would you not turn me into a sushi platter? It makes no sense. But Rey was a little different. She had the Force on her side to help, a little. And one other thing that I noticed is they had a lot of scenes of nostalgia here and there, which I don't mind. One, it's obvious that Disney is trying to make a few extra dollars from the people who saw A New Hope in 1977, which isn't a great look. And two, nostalgia is great, to a limit, not the entire plot. Okay, now we can get on to not sequel stuff in the rankings. So, my number 9 pick is Solo. If you couldn't tell, I'm a bit of a Disney hater. Okay, so Solo was entertaining. A little bit. It was interesting the first time. The plot kind of revolved around you saying, oh, that's cool, that happens in New Hope, that's how it lines up. But if you already know, what's the point? Also, it just kind of feels like it's a task to watch. During May the 4th, I watch all the Star Wars canon media. It takes me a few months because I don't have as much time as you think I would. But by all the Star Wars media, I mean like all 50 hours of the Clone Wars, Rebels, all the movies. Now, during these times, every single time I do this, I am tempted to skip the sequels and Solo. Because Solo is terrible. It doesn't add anything to the Star Wars universe. It's just another money-making source for Disney. But before I jump to the next ranking, I will say one more thing. I talked to someone about the Solo, and he actually really liked the movie. I'm looking at it a perspective of which how does it line up with the other movies, whereas he just wanted to enjoy the plot, and I don't blame him. The plot is okay. I thought it was kind of slow, but he liked it. But I was looking at it more from an analytical sense. If you weren't looking at it from an analytical sense and completely liked the film a lot, guess what? This is my ranking. Go make your own. Alright, time for pick number 8. Or ranking number 8. Whatever. Okay. Number 8 probably isn't going to sit well with fans. What I picked for number 8 is Empire Strikes Back. Before you flood the comments in angry noises and angry sentences, I don't find it really interesting. It kind of feels like a checklist to get through before the end. Gotta get through this to do this and whatnot. That really doesn't explain it as well as I could, but I don't really know how to put it into words. Although I did think the ending duo was really cool though. The rest was a little meh to me. It didn't really add much to the plot. I mean, sure, there was the father scene, but it didn't have as much as the 4th and 6th movies in the OT. Alright, time for number 7, of which I picked The Phantom Menace. I just thought that it was really slow in doing everything. When I watch it personally, I've never thought to myself what an excellent movie this is compared to the others, and it's just that there's only one plot point for every 20 minutes. Not the most intriguing for me. Also, it kind of felt like most of it was filler for the other prequels. Now, obviously they have to show how Anakin joined the Jedi with Padme, but not everything else was the most useful besides Palpatine becoming Chancellor. If it wasn't that useful to the plot of the prequels, then I didn't think it was that interesting. Alright, time for number 6, which is the Clone Wars movie. I know a lot of people really dislike the Clone Wars movie, partially because of Ahsoka, but I like the Clone Wars a lot. But the movie wasn't really that important or anything. The only reason it made it above Empire Strikes Back and The Phantom Menace is because I loved the Clone Wars and the prequels. No other reason. I just love the clone battles, and Rex and Ahsoka, and animation Star Wars. I don't really have much more of an explanation besides that. Besides maybe the fact that it was kind of like an extended version of an episode in the Clone Wars series, and the Clone Wars series. I don't have to tell you how good that is, right? I mean, excellent show. My favorite show. My number 5 pick is A New Hope. So, I think that this will never not be a good movie. It's a classic. It's just what you want in a Star Wars movie. I loved everything about it. The plot, the writing, the beginning, the end, all of it. There's just one issue, and that would be that it follows the classic hero's journey plot point. The one that goes something like orphan meets old sage, and they do this and go learn and save or beat the villain or conflict or whatever. Well, a lot of movies are like that. It's really common. So, for that reason, it's placed not in number 1, or 2, or 3, or you get it. I felt it was just kind of common, and because of that, number 5. For number 4, I had Rogue One. I mentioned earlier I'm kind of a Disney hater, but I actually like this one. It's actually had a purpose in being made, which was to show how the Death Star plans were stolen. That was kind of antecedent action in the New Hope, and it was really interesting to see that be filled with actual content. So, it was really original with its characters as well. Battles, plot, locations, but then you're probably wondering, Bilbo, if you liked it so much, why didn't you make it higher on the list? And the reason is inevitably because I love Clone Wars. And that leads us to number 3, Attack of the Clones. I like this movie a lot. It's both intriguing and fast-paced, which leads to good entertainment in Star Wars, and it was really interesting to see how the war started, especially since when it came out, no political confrontations that had been seen on screen had caused a war in Star Wars. Episode 2 just broke a lot of ground in Star Wars. The only criticism I have is I wish that the war started a bit earlier in the movie, because that is the bit that everyone looks forward to. I was watching a Star Wars YouTube video, and the one guy said that he loved Clone War, or what's it called, Attack of the Clones a lot, so much when he was a kid, that he just kind of skipped to the end, the Battle of Geonosis, just to watch that part. But other than that, great movie. Number 2 time. For my second pick, I chose the great movie of Return of the Jedi. I don't think I have ever gotten bored watching this movie. But once again, you're probably asking, why is it number 2 then? And once again, I will say that there are actually 2 main plot points. The saving of Han on Tatooine and the blowing up of the Death Star 2. These main plot points are really interesting to watch. Somehow, the 6th movie, Death Star, was just as interesting to watch as the Death Star in the 4th, a testament to how interesting the 6th movie is. Time for number 1, which my pick is Revenge of the Sith, and the reason for that being the quality. There is no part of Revenge of the Sith I dislike. I don't think I have any criticisms for the movie. I liked all of it. It's just so interesting in what Palpatine did, and the duels are excellent, and it sets up the OT movies very nicely. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment. I try to respond to all of my comments, and yes, I know that most are going to disagree with my choices. I know exactly what the consensus is, but this is my own ranking and not affected by others, so don't be too mad at me, and I hope you enjoyed. Thanks, and I'll see you later.